Supreme Court showdown looms. Newsom's lawsuit challenges Trump's power. As the country splits between supporters of presidential order and defenders of local liberties, the legal battle started by Gavin Newsom is about to reach its climax: the U.S. Supreme Court. The appeal filed by the Governor of California is based on a clear constitutional argument. President Trump has violated the principle of federalism, state prerogatives, and the limits set by the Posse Comitatus Act. The case, initially dealt with as an emergency by a federal appeals court, is now being examined by the country's highest judges in a climate of unprecedented national tension. For many constitutionalists, the heart of the debate goes beyond the California case. At issue is whether a president can unilaterally mobilize military forces against a federated entity without its consent, based on an expansive interpretation of the Insurrection Act. This trial could well become a decisive jurisprudence on the balance of power between the states and the federal executive, a confrontation reminiscent of the great cases of the 20th century, such as United States v. Nixon or Bush v. Gore. But the judicial outcome is far from certain. Since returning to power, Trump has consolidated a conservative majority on the Supreme Court, with 6 justices reputedly hostile to federal intervention in local affairs, except when it comes to reinforcing presidential authority. Many experts fear that the court, under the guise of a strict interpretation of the Constitution, will validate Trump's national security arguments, paving the way for an increased presidentialization of federal power. In the briefs filed by Newsom's legal team, led by attorney Vanessa Delgado, we find the assertion that American democracy rests on balance, not domination. The state of California presents itself as the defender of the founding principles of the United States, refusing to let force prevail over law. On the other side of the argument, Trump's lawyers invoke urgency, latent insurrection, and the inaction of local authorities to justify military intervention, an argument that echoes the security doctrines used in other authoritarian contexts abroad. The population is following the trial with feverish attention. Legal vigils are being organized in front of the Supreme Court in Washington. Mobilizations in support of Newsom are taking place in San Francisco, and polls are multiplying. According to a Pew Research survey, 58% of Americans believe that the Supreme Court currently plays a decisive role in the survival of democracy, while 29% consider it already compromised. Whatever the verdict, this case redefines the place of American institutions in the crisis. If the Supreme Court validates Trump's approach, it would give legal cover to the domestic use of armed force, which would represent a historic turning point. If it rejects him, it would reaffirm the safeguards of the federal system, at the risk of triggering a political counterattack by the president. Either way, the decision will be a landmark one.